Hello everyone, sorry I can't be with you today. I've got a lesson prepared about pattern design and particularly thinking about masks, but it doesn't really matter what patterns you're designing. Two concepts. First one is the use of parallel lines and consistency. So when you're designing patterns, it often looks good if you get it really consistent, which means shapes are always the same size, the same thickness. You might use lines of symmetry to help plan what you're doing, but consistency and parallel lines. And what you notice is with parallel lines, a lot of people think parallel just means straight. So when they're sort of getting that common mistake, parallel just means straight. Parallel doesn't mean straight, it means never getting further apart and never getting closer together. So you actually get parallel curves as well, and that's what we'll be focusing on in this one. And the second keyword really is embellishment. So sometimes when you think you've finished your work, but you show it to your art teacher and they say, you need to go away, add a bit more work into it. Work into it was a phrase that was always said to me, and I didn't really know what my teacher meant. They meant embellish it. They just meant add more detail, make it more intricate, make it more interesting. So that's what this task is about, those two things. Designing pattern consistently, using symmetry and parallel lines, and then embellishing. So everybody's going to get a sheet for mask design like this, but it's actually a bit too basic for me, so I've spiced it up. I've already started to add some extra details inside the nose. So I've looked carefully at the curve of this nose shape and I've tried to draw the exact same curve. So never getting closer to the outside, never getting further away. And then I've tried to have three shapes that are all the same thickness. I'm just going to flatten that out a bit. Now I've also just started to add detail to the nose, so I'm going to leave one big and then undo a small one. What's really important is that the size that I do it on the left, it matches the same on the right. So at that point you can get a ruler out. You can imagine the line of symmetry going down the centre of the mask. So these curves are parallel, but then also they're going to be symmetrical left to right. So if we do some others, so let's say we're going to have a medium, a small and then a really big. Now you could draw lightly here, and then we're going to have a small one again. So never getting thicker, never getting thinner, we're trying to keep it the same all the way through. And a big, then a thin. These thin ones have got to be the same thickness all the way through. Now here's the hard bit, getting exactly the same on the left hand side. So I'm just dotting it out. So that's where I need to end. Now also I've got to stay parallel to that curve. So parallel not meaning straight, just meaning not getting closer, not getting further apart. So it's quite challenging actually. That's a bit too thick. I've already started drawing that too thick compared to the last one. So I need to go away and change that. If I change my thickness, I'm not being consistent. So consistent and embellishment, two key words. So that's my ideas for how I might embellish the nose. The nose looked a bit too boring for me, so I've just chosen to embellish it a little bit. Let's pick another area. So I'm just going to start to put some lines in here. Keep the same thickness. Now here's hard, getting it the same on the opposite side so that it's symmetrical. Now notice I went off there, I didn't go back up, so I've got to do the same on this side in order for it to look good. That one's a bit too thick, I'm just going to go back and change that. We could embellish the horns a bit, we could add some extra curves in at the bottom. So I've got a curved bottom there, so I've got to stay curved and match it. So this is where I'm expecting you to be creative and make some choices about how do you want to embellish the mask that's in front of you. There are lots of large areas of a flat space, and I think it's a bit boring as it is. And so when you feel like that about your work, you need to think about how can I embellish it. But then you've got this second task, how do I keep it consistent? So have I got the same thickness there on the left as I have over on the right? I'm not sure I have. I think I've done them a bit bigger on the left. So if I want this pattern to look professional, I need to change it. Now you could get a ruler, you could get a protractor, you could start drawing templates and cut them out in cardboard and use them to draw around. There are lots of strategies for helping get your patterns consistent. So once you've embellished that entire design, you've made it more interesting. How you apply colour is really up to you and depends on what's available. So you could start to show me off some blending skills. So if I just show you the sort of thing I mean, so having it darker on certain spaces, so darker here and then gradually blending to lighter. You could show me off some blending skills if there's pencils available. But if you've got fine liners, that might be a really nice opportunity to carry on this pattern work and thinking about consistency. So you could do patterns out of dots and stripes. Make sure you keep your dots the same size, the same distance apart. If you're doing stripes, make sure you keep stripes the same thickness. And also all going at exactly the same angle. I know it might feel a bit over the top to get a protractor out, but if that's what it takes to do a fantastic job of this task, then that's what you should be prepared to do. And when you do your patterns, make sure they're consistent. So if you start doing dots over here, on the other side, because it's going to be symmetrical, if you've got dots over here, you want to have dots over here, so that it looks symmetrical, consistent, professional. So this lesson really is going to depend on what's available. It's going to be cut into two parts. The first part is going to be about embellishing, which is about adding extra detail when you think you're done. That's a skill that you will need no matter what year you're in, what project you're doing, embellishing. When you do your pattern, so this is not just related to African mask, related to all pattern design, you're really thinking about consistency, keeping the same size, the same angle, the same distance apart, and drawing parallel curves is a huge task. Parallel doesn't just mean straight, it means never getting further apart and never getting closer together. So when we start to draw curves, we have to look at the curve that we're responding to and think, am I getting too close to that one? Am I getting further apart? So it should be a very, very challenging lesson. There's lots of layers to that there. I look forward to seeing the masks finished when I come in next time. Thank you.